Hey guys, Dan here from Your Guitar Academy and welcome to part 3 of our Harmonic Minor Masterclass series. And it's just a 3-part thing for YouTube which I put together to really help you understand the harmonic minor scale. Now, in the first lesson we looked at the scale, where to use the scale, how to use the scale, what it is theoretically. In the second part, we looked at how to harmonize that scale to create a set of chords that work perfectly in a kind of minor setting. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the actual writing process of the backing track that we've been using. So this is going to be a really cool way to give you a very direct example of how you can songwrite using the scale shapes that I've shown you and the chords that I've shown you. So it gives you some practical kind of examples for that. And we're going to be going over to the Logic file and having a look at the different guitar parts. It'll also give you just a bit of an insight in terms of songwriting and a little bit of kind of using a system like Logic to kind of create backing tracks. So there's loads going on here. Just before we get started, do head on over to the website where you can find the backing track to download, as well as a worksheet for this lesson which has the tab of every single part that I'm going to take you through. I'd recommend kind of getting that, downloading it. It's totally free. Then kind of continuing to watch the lesson so that you've got that out in front of you to help you. Okay, so the first part of the backing track that we're going to be looking at is the main groove. And this is like a finger style little groove. And it's the first thing that went down. So it defined the chords and the chord movement and the basic rhythm of the track alongside the drum beat. So let's have a little look at that part. Then we go. And then 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, back to the main groove. To finish up, just got a little off camera there. I'll come back to that one clearer in a second. So let's just go through that. Now then, we've got the basic kind of concept is around this E minor to start with, okay? And notice I'm really grooving with my right hand. I'm using the fingers rather than the plectrum, but you're more than welcome to kind of do the same with the plectrum as well, okay? But for now, I'm just kind of basically using the thumb first, second and third finger to grab the A, D, G and B string throughout this part, okay? So we got E, 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 okay? And you get a little slap at the end there, 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2, okay? Then I'm gonna jump up to this F sharp diminished 7, okay? And use it as a great way to kind of show you how to move this chord any way you like on the fretboard. Remember, it's built in flat thirds, so you can either move it 1, 2, 3 down or 1, 2, 3 up, and it will become the same chord, just all the notes are reordered within it, okay? So in this instance, I'm going from the chord itself, dropping down a flat third, so I'm now on a kind of D sharp, which is again within the key anyway, and then back to the E. So I get this. So it's just a cool little play around with that concept of moving the diminished chord. Okay, I repeat that 4 times. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 4 E and a. Then I use that same groove, but I jump to my 4 chord of the A minor. Same groove. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. But I'm just staying on, there's no movement there, it's just staying on the A minor for 1 bar. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Second bar on A minor, I do the first bit exactly the same, with that little groove there. But then I move up to this G augmented, and I grab that before going back to the E minor, like this. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and then back to the E minor, twice. And now I'm going to utilize going to those major chords because they're such a big part of this harmonic minor sound. So I'm going to go to the C major and just let it ring out for one bar. 1, 2, 3, then the B major for one bar. 2, then the C major for one bar. 2, then the B major for another bar. And then that will bring us back to the final section. Let's call it some kind of vague turnaround. Now for this section, we need a slightly wider view of the fretboard because we're going all the way down here. So we're going same groove 3 times. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 4 E and a. But there, rather than going back to the E minor, we're going to drop that down another flat third. So 1, 2, 3, down to this C diminished 7th chord. And then swap that for a B dominant 7, and you can see, look how similar those chords are, okay? We've literally got one note difference, okay, between the C diminished 7th and the B7. The only difference is literally the B or the C. So we go, and that's a perfect chord to end on because the B7 pulls us right back to that E minor chord. So that sounds like this. And then we go around that part all the way through the track. Okay, now the second part that we're going to be going through is this really cool, almost disco style part, which is where we do consistent 16th note bubble picking, but we're using a harmonic minor scale to really bring it into that sound. So not only does it add an extra element of the groove to the track to push it forward, it also brings in even more of the harmonic minor scale. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so this part is all about adding a kind of funky melodic line on top of the track to just give it a bit more drive. Okay, so these kind of bouncy, bubbly, almost kind of like disco lines serve those two purposes. They bring in a little bit of melody and a little bit of harmony, but they more importantly bring in more groove. Okay, that's why this consistent 16th note thing is really important here. So the actual part itself, it's kind of octavized, so they played over the top of each other, but the lower part is this. And then the higher part is that same thing, up an octave. Okay, so let's just go through those notes. Now we're using the E harmonic minor scale shape, okay? And I'm using, there's our 7, there's our root, there's our flat third, and there's our 4th, okay? So we're kind of a bit of a pentatonic-y thing plus the 7th, the raised 7th from the harmonic minor. So we're going to do the first 2 notes are dead. Down, up, dead notes. Then we're going to take a 5 to the 7 on the D string. We can hammer that on. Then we've got another dead note, okay? And then the 7 again, and it's nice and staccato. So it's down, up, down, down, up. It's important that right hand is doing a consistent 16th note strum. Okay? Then we've got a little pause, then another little dead note on an upstroke. So we get. Then we're going to do a 6 to the 7 on the A string. Okay? Then another dead note before hitting the 5 to the 5 again on the D string. So up to there we've got this. Okay, if in doubt, just keep that right hand moving, doing ghost notes between. Okay, then again, a couple of more ghost notes, and we end on that 6 to 7. So we've got I'm really slow now. Okay, so there's our first part, and we basically just transposed that all the way up an octave using, there's the 7th, there's the root, flat third, and 4th. Same idea, but now up here. And that's just an octave apart, and they're on top of each other. And as I said, once you kind of get that a bit more up to speed and kind of get used to the 16th note picking. And by the way, if you've never done that 16th note picking, then check out the course here, which I'm going to link to, where we've got a full Funk Fundamentals course taught to you by the amazing Simone. He's awesome, and he goes through this stuff in great detail, so you can kind of work through that. But for now, once you get that together, that adds another layer on the backing track, a nice kind of driving pulse, and it gives it a bit more groove. Okay, and the final part is intended as a bit more of a kind of funky groove. It's very much using a Strat, very thin sounding, using just high-end triad chords to go alongside that main finger style part. And again, add more of a 16th note funky vibe to this very dark harmonic minor style track. So let's have a little look at it. And then okay, so we've got basically three different parts to go through there. We've got the E minor section. So remember, this is another layer again on top of that basic chord groove, okay? And in this instance, what I wanted to bring to the backing track was something more funky, so a bit more of a groove with the right hand, less kind of finger picky and just more kind of attacky. I would have used the Strat, definitely, but I'm kind of teaching on this guitar today because it's beautiful. But yes, I would have used the Strat for that kind of thinner sound, and I'm getting that kind of 16th note strum thing going on. I'm very much using high-end chords, so triad versions of chords, to make it have that kind of funk sound to it. So we kind of kick off with this. Okay, so we got an E minor chord up top here. Okay, so that's just the 12th fret on the G, B, and E string, and I slide in a semitone. Okay, so it's 1 E and then I stop it dead. And then I come down to this E minor triad here, okay, which is based upon this chord shape. It's E minor triad, and then hit those notes there. So in terms of a count, we get this: 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 4 E. Okay, so it's very important we get those exact hits. Okay, okay, because that matches up with that same hit, same actual rhythm there. Just instead of doing the diminished chords, we kind of hang around on that E minor. Then we do that for 4 bars, and we move on to the A. And in this instance, I'm going to get kind of basically an A power chord here. So I've got the A, I've got the 5th, I've got the 5th, A, and then the 5th again up top. Okay, so it's just a chord I use a lot for funk because it's really non-descriptive. It's a power chord. It's kind of the funk equivalent of kind of just going, you know, with a power chord but up high. Okay, and again, same thing, same rhythm. I'm going to do a little slide into it, and then same rhythm. Okay, and then I go back to the E. Same thing, twice. And then I'm going to come to that C, but I'm just going to do the top 3 notes, so from the major 3rd, 5th, and root, and I'm going to do exactly the same groove. Then drop down a semitone to the B. Up C, B. Okay, nice and simple in that bit. And then we move back to the E 3 times. Sorry. Now on the 4th time, at that point, if you remember, we go to that diminished chord and then the B7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play this top three notes here, okay, which is a diminished seventh and a B dominant. Okay, if you remember me saying the only difference between those two chords of a C diminished seventh and a B dominant is literally the root note. These three notes here stay exactly the same. So I'm just gonna, and this is familiar from, you know, that kind of blues turnaround thing. It's just a dominant chord really at the top. And I'm gonna hit that twice. Just in line with the groove. So 1 E and a 2 E and. Do it again. 1 E and a 2 E and. So going to that from the previous chord. And then the whole thing goes round again. Okay, so hopefully that gave you some really cool ideas. Now there's a lot more we can cover in the long run with the harmonic minor scale. We can show you really cool little arpeggios. We can talk a lot more in depth about the diminished seventh chords and the augmented chords and how to actually use those in your soloing. And we will be developing a full course for this on the website. As always, it will be totally free and I'll let you know once that's all up and running. But hopefully this has given you a really good introduction as to how to use that harmonic minor. Remember, if you haven't seen the previous lessons, go ahead and click on the playlist here and you'll be able to go through every single one of these parts, so part 1, part 2 and part 3. And here's the link to the website as well, where you can download the backing track, you can download the worksheets for every single one of these lessons. Also, if you want to carry on watching me on YouTube teaching some really awesome, super cool stuff, then here's a link to our playlist where it's got all my wonderful lessons. We've got some cool John Mayer stuff, we got some David Gilmour, we got, well, loads of stuff on there. So check it out. Please do subscribe if you like what you see, and I'll see you again soon.